Our buddy Mike over at Seems Legit Garage sent us some really cool stuff. If you've seen my Instagram, you've seen kind of an idea of what we have. But now I want to show you guys this in person. Also, the homie Lorenzo's here who's building a 2JZ E46. But he, for whatever reason, is a good friend of mine, but also for whatever reason...
For whatever reason, I'm a good friend?
No. For whatever reason, he's a good friend of mine, comma. But for whatever reason, he's never seen these before, so I'm gonna get his reaction to seeing these rotors and brackets for the first time, and then I'll show you guys these, and I'll be able to see my first reaction to it.
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
Mike from Seems Legit is the guy who builds this dual caliper bracket for our handbrake, and it was so good on the Pro-Am car that I did it on the Pro 2 car as well. And then I approached him with an idea that I had of making a budget kit that was a little bit lighter for everybody, and you could still run Wilwood calipers all the way around on the car. So this is what Mike came up with, and he kind of just showed me stuff, and I was just like, yep, send it, do it. And that was the way this relationship started. So Mike made us these. Huge shout out to Seems Legit. They're gonna be one of our partners for the 2020 season, and it should be a good time. All right, are you ready for this, bro?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's see it.
I can't believe you haven't seen it. It's been on Micah's stories.
I know, I've
for
been
like...
posting
I don't
about
look
it.
at Instagram all the time.
Told you, for whatever reason. He's a good friend of mine, but he doesn't watch my stuff.
Because Micah hates
Look
me.
at it, look at it, ready? Come here.
Okay, I'm watching.
Are you ready?
Watching,
Are
yeah.
you ready? But what about the people? I gotta make sure.
Oh my god. Oh, those are crazy.
Ooh.
Put your hand in there and get cut real quick.
Look at that.
Oh,
Diaz, bro. Oh my god.
Something falling over.
Oh, the poster got knocked off the wall.
No, that's pretty sick.
Check this out, bro. So these are the front ones. And so now, what Mike and I came up with was that we wanted to utilize the same caliper all the way around the car. The problem is there's two types of calipers. This is what you call a bung style mounted. It mounts off of a bung, like this. This is the factory style, and so this caliper has a big ear off of it, and a bolt goes through it into another ear. Bung style. Then they have what's known as radial mount, and radial mount is when the mounts are actually studs that stick off and go out toward the radius of the wheel. So you have a radial mount and the caliper slides onto the stud and the bolt goes on the top of it.
I've never seen any like that, to be honest.
Never seen anything like that? You're gonna see them on this car. So what happened was, the bung mounted style caliper here wouldn't work because the ears that it mounts off of were running into the ears over here, and there wasn't really a bracket that Mike could build to put in between those things. And what we found is that they sell the same exact caliper with the same piston sizes and all that stuff, except it comes in a radial mount instead of a bung mount. He designed a bracket that will house that caliper. What we were able to do is utilize the stock BMW rotor so that if we ever had to replace a rotor or do something later on, it wasn't as expensive, but we were still able to get the better clamping force out of the Wilwood calipers. This is I believe a 325 E36 front rotor. And this will work with, this is what Mike came up with the measurements and the depth here, the difference. He was able to build a bracket to where that Wilwood would go on there. Now we cut out the sides to get some weight loss. I originally came to him with the idea of doing like a wave style rotor, and Mike sent me this design and was like, what about a saw blade? And I was like, whatever you want to do, bro.
It's pretty different, yeah.
So now we could chop wood. We could do whatever we want. So I'm gonna go put this on here. Oh, bam.
Pawnee wants to be in the video.
Yeah, Pawnee girl's here. So this is what this will look like mounted up. So the 325 is a little bit smaller than the E46 one, but smaller means less weight. And now we got cuts out of it, which means also less weight. And now we got, instead of a cast caliper, now we have an aluminum machine caliper. Why does weight matter? This right here, I've explained to you guys when I did the proper video. Any weight that sits below the spring, meaning to a degree from pretty much this point this way, your control arm, your knuckle, your rotor, your studs, your wheel, your tire, is known as unsprung weight. The weight that sits above the spring is known as sprung weight. So everything that puts weight on top of the coilover. The engine, the chassis, the roll cage, all that stuff is sprung weight. The theory is, it's not really a theory, the facts are that Cadillac kind of picked up on this and they did a great job. What they were able to do was they were able to build a car that had a very heavy sprung weight, and then what they did was they made a really, really light unsprung weight. And what a light unsprung weight does is it allows the tire, when hitting a bump, to react to that bump with force, but also be set back down on the floor really fast. And so if you can do this in a race car and create a really light unsprung weight, then you can keep the tire on the floor more often when it goes through bumps or anything like that. And if you can keep the tire on the floor more often, it means you can maintain traction more often. So the goal is to make as light of unsprung weight as possible to keep that wheel on the floor. It also rides smoother. Example.
Bring up rotational weight too.
Yeah, there's definitely rotational weight here that happens too, rotating mass, and that stuff goes away too the more weight we take off of this. It's not necessarily that you want a heavy chassis and a light unsprung weight. You just want as light an unsprung weight as possible. It rides rough when you have a heavy car with heavy unsprung weight. For example, the dually, or cars like Expeditions or Excursions, or really any trucks. When that wheel hits a bump, it has so much more weight and force that it travels up higher and stays off the floor longer and then comes back down and kisses the floor. When I had my F250, I would go on the freeway, and when I hit a bump, I could feel my wheel like bouncing and going through, like the truck almost felt like it would hit a bump hard and it would kind of like just do this like and then it would settle back. Whereas like my 7 Series, it's got really light unsprung weight, you'd hit a bump and the wheel would come up and go down and you wouldn't even feel it because the chassis was so heavy. So the goal is super light unsprung weight, keep the tire on the floor and maintain as much traction as possible. So now we'll go back to the package, because in the package, Mike also sent us not only another front rotor. Where did the razor blade go? There it is. Heads up. Boom. Another one. And so these are mirrored also, so these blade cuts. So if I put this one on that side, they'll both be cutting forward like a saw blade, or if I spin them the other way, they'll both be spinning this way with the blades going that way. Like
are they
Sonic the
directional though?
Hedgehog.
You know how?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
They're whichever way I want to put them.
Yeah, 'cause some are directional, you know, like how the airflow goes in and comes out.
Oh, so yeah. No, these are all straight. They're all straight stock Beamer ones. One of the other things was that I was talking to Mike about drilling holes in these rotors, and the problem with drilling holes, he's saying that if you drill holes in it, with the heat cycle, they'll build cracks. If the rotor isn't cast with the holes in them already, and you drill them yourself into something like this, it will crack eventually going through heat. So what he did instead is, instead of doing like regular slots, we were like, let's put our names on it. He asked me if I want to put my name on it. I said, yeah, put my name on it. That'd be sick. And then I was like, you should also put Seems Legit. So this is the Seems Legit logo. And then you also have my name on it as well. So these are pretty sick. Mike made these for me. They're awesome. I'm sure he would make some for you too. If you want to hit him up at Seems Legit Garage. He's on Instagram and all that stuff. These ones are pretty sick as well. So these are very important, which I'll show you these in a second. This here is the rear. The rear actually is directional.
Big
it's got
boys.
fins in there. Right. So the rears are a little bit bigger of a diameter than the front. Here's why. These rear rotors here are for an E36 M3, and the E36 M3 naturally has a lot bigger of a rotor. The front ones are off a 325 IS E36. It's got a smaller diameter, but the rears are also a lot thinner. So the weight that you're gaining in diameter, you don't have there in thickness. So that's how that works, but I just wanted to show you guys we did the rears and the fronts. We got the Seems Legit and the Diaz all the way around on it. Looks super dope. These ones got a nice machine clean look to them, where these have more of like a paint on top of them, but this surface and this surface will be matching here in no time. The other thing Mike made us, which this is the reason that these are gonna work right here. The whole point of this was for these brackets right here.
This is what I've never seen. I was looking at them right now.
So this is a custom design by Mike over at Seems Legit, and what it does is it turns your bung mount into a radial mount. So this will bolt onto the stock knuckle, which I believe this is a front. So you have a front and a rear, and the way these are going to work, I'll show you. Come back here for the rear. The rear will actually bolt on just like that. Boom, bam, boom. Or maybe it goes the other way actually. I'll have to get the caliper
Looks
and the
like
rotor
that's
on there.
right, so it's a little closer.
Yeah, it looks like this. And so now it turns this bung mount setup. You bolt that onto there, and now it's a radial mount setup. So now the caliper will sit in this location, and bolts will come through and hold the caliper on there. Or you can do studs with nuts on the top side. Depends on what you want to do. Doesn't really matter. That's the rear there. Pretty freaking dope. And then let's look at the front, how the front's gonna work.
Dude, so you had to get a different caliper, or are you still using those and it'll work?
No, I gotta go buy the Willwood calipers.
Oh, okay.
And then here you go, you have your bung setup on the E36 bracket, and then your radial mount will go just like that, and then the caliper will sit on top of it, and bam. So now what we've been able to achieve with this is not only a lighter unsprung weight and not only better clamping force, but now we also have the same caliper all the way around the car. So if something goes wrong with one of them, we have parts. They're all identical. You buy one style of O-ring for all 4 of them. You buy one style of piston for all 4 of them. Now some of you are probably thinking, well, how are you going to control the 2 calipers and if they're the same size? We have 2 different size master cylinders, and one master cylinder goes to the front and one goes to the rear, so you can naturally change the pressures that are going out to them just by changing those things. So I'm super freaking stoked. Mike from Seems Legit Garage killed it. These brackets are super dope. I can't wait to get it all bolted up and get the calipers on there and get this thing looking amazing. I'm freaking pumped. And now we can put the wheels on too, and they're not gonna stick out all stupid like how they were because they weren't sitting flush. As always, thank you guys for watching. Huge shout out to Mike from Seems Legit Garage, and welcome to the team, bro. Thank you so much for your help. But as always, thank you guys for checking us out. Leave a like if you think this brake kit's pretty dope, and if you think you might want one, hit up Mike. Also, stay safe. Later, dudes.